Go ahead anytime you're ready.
Good afternoon, everyone. Apparently my mic was muted.
Afternoon, Carlian.
Okay. All right, so we're supposed to be doing a presentation on constructed response items and their rubric, the development of their rubric. All right. So for the objectives, students should be able to understand what constructed response items are, distinguish the features of short answer response and essay items, identify the guidelines in producing short answer items and essay items, identify the guidelines in grading short answer items and essay items, and develop and construct essay items and rubrics. All right, so what are constructed response type items? These are also referred to as supply items, open-ended or constructed response. They are sometimes classified as performance assessment because students generally produce an answer. Constructed response items include short answers, restricted and extended essay. And in bracket, there's a structured response. All right, so what are some of the features of short answer items? For one, students are generally required to produce phrase or statements, usually 2 to 3 sentences in response to a question or a direct statement. So for example, the question can be asked, what is socialization? And so the students is required to produce an answer to the question. Also, short answers can also be used to complete statements. So for example, the instruction says, complete the following statement. And so part of the definition is given because this is asking you to define the family. So it starts out by saying a family is a, and then the student is then required to complete the definition for what a family is. Short answer encourages precise thoughts and expression. They can cover several content areas, thereby increasing its validity. So with a short answer test type, you can set short answer tests on multiple topic areas that you would have covered with your class. Students are expected to produce an answer as opposed to selecting it from a pool of options. So last week, for example, when the presentation was being done on selected response, as opposed to choosing an option from, say, a pool of answers, a fill in the blank or a true or false, with a short answer, students are asked to come up with their own answer. So there's nothing for them to choose from. So what are some of the limitations of short answers? One of the limitations is that short answers tend to produce varying responses. And as a result, there can be subjective scoring based on the examiner's interpretation. So I can ask the question, describe briefly the process involved in baking a cake. Can I get 3 persons to respond, please, quickly? Any 3 persons?
Do you have all the ingredients?
But what's the process though?
Check if you have all the ingredients in your recipe.
Anything else?
Combine dry ingredients, add your liquid, mix, and pour in a line baking sheet. Set the oven to whatever to preheat. Put it in the oven after a while, and yeah, then you remove it when it's finished.
All right, one more person. One more.
You can cream the butter and the sugar together. Then you add your eggs. After that, you add your baking powder, your flour, your sugar, your salt, any other flavoring that you'd want to add. Then you put it in your lined baking tin. and you bake for however long it says you're supposed to bake based on the recipe. And then after the time, you take it out.
All right, so perfect. So if we were paying attention, we would realize that we got 3 varying responses, and none of the responses really were incorrect. So this is one of the limitations with short answers. You might not necessarily get the same response to the same question. So it becomes, the scoring of it, it becomes subjective, because then it's the teacher or the examiner who will have to decide if they're going to accept the answer basically or not. Another shortcoming is that it's difficult to construct. So the intended response is, it's difficult to construct so that the intended response is clearly indicated. And this is closely linked to number 1, because it is so open for varying interpretations. So sometimes it's hard to construct the question to get any one answer or along the particular line that you would want it. All right, is that clear? No?
Yes, Carly. Yes,
Okay.
it's clear.
Guidelines for setting short answer items. All right, one of the things is that short answer items should be avoided for testing recall level information. One of the reading would describe that it is uneconomical. So it's like a waste of test to use a short answer just to test for a student to recall something that they are taught in class. Secondly, items should elicit responses that are short, succinct, and concise as possible. So as the term would suggest, short answer. So the answer should be as short, as concise, as specific as possible. Thirdly, when setting short answers, it's very important of the blanks, which is the blank spaces, or they are set out on the paper. So if a statement is being used, then blank should be placed at the end of the statement. For example, as you can see, so the student here is being asked to complete this statement. So it says digestion is a process whereby the body. So if you realize that the blank, the line, it starts exactly after the word body. So when you're setting exam questions and you're asking the students to complete the statements, that is where you put the line. You don't put it below the statement, you put it exactly beside the statement. Also, if a direct question is being asked, so it's still we're continuing where you place the blanks. If a direct question is being asked or a directive is given, the blank should be placed in the left margin immediately under the question. So for example, explain 2 ways in which the immune system responds to disease. So you start the blank immediately below the question, and you leave it in the margin. You start it at the margin. Another guideline is that all the blanks should be of equal length. So sufficient blanks should also be provided for students to give their response, and this will prevent students from cramming their answers or writing in an illegible manner. So the blanks should not be, some should not be longer than some. All of them should be the same length, and they should be of the same spacing in between them. And when you're giving short answer as well, you have to bear the response that you would want in mind in order to know how much blanks it is that you would want to provide for the students. Because you don't want them, because they sense that they don't have enough space, then they start writing fine and small and start, itching up the words together. So at the end of the day, you, the teacher, you're finding it difficult to mark the people. All right, scoring short answer. Some of the guidelines for scoring the short answer is the same as scoring the essay items, and that is going to be discussed when we get to that part.
Any questions at this point, class? Anything that you want to ask in what Carly has for you? Because this is important. You might not think it's important, but is there anything in what she described, she went through, that you might want to get a little bit more clarity on?
No, Doc. It was clear.
I have questions. I have questions. You said that, for instance, it requires precise thoughts and expression. So you say a short answer encourages. So in other words, we should aim for precise thoughts and expressions. How can we ensure that we are able to do that? Say, let us say the example, for instance, that you presented, Carly-Ann. Can you go back to it? You ask students to give you a statement of how do you bake a cake? How can we ensure that it follows the guideline of short answer and being precise?
Miss, one of the things you can
I
do
don't
is-
want you to answer it necessarily.
Okay.
I want the class to answer it first, and then you can explain further if anything. Anyone have any ideas on that?
Thinking that you can say in list 5 points, or tell them how many points you want them to list for the answer.
Excellent. Yes, you could ask them to produce it in, say, 3 steps, right? Outline 3 steps in 3, and you'd have to be very clear, right? So you'd probably say 3 sequential steps. Agreed? 3 steps in sequence of how you would bake a cake, right? Now, how would you go about making sure that you are prepared for scoring that kind of response?
We would put the marks associated with each step.
You would put the marks associated with each steps, absolutely, yes, in some kind of format, right? Like a marking scheme. But how would you now remember that a constructed response is what kind of response?
It will vary. So you probably have to say, okay, what the steps include a specific word or a specific thing that you want them to say.
All right. Any other ideas on that? How would you ensure that you are prepared, well prepared for fairness in marking a short answer response? So you have already clarified that you need to keep it precise, right? And clear. And we gave a good example here. We got a good example of how you could go about that, right? So that the student doesn't go on and on and on and write an epistle, right? So now that you have that, how can you prepare for what the students might give you in those 3 steps?
Perhaps take into consideration all the possible responses.
Yes, Kellyanne, thank you. You would have to know, sit down and take into consideration all of the varieties of responses that they might come with in order to be fair, right? However, the one thing that you have to make sure of is that it ends with a reasonable, it starts with a reasonable first step, and it ends with a reasonable last step, right? Because I mean, the last step could be one student might say, put the cake in the oven, and another student might say, take out
the cake, right, take it out.
30 minutes. You
Yeah,
get
I
where
get
I'm
that.
going?
Yeah, I get that.
So you're going to have to plan for that. You see what I'm saying? You have to plan and you have to preempt what it is that a variety of 3 steps, right? And in doing that and thinking around it, how you're going to prepare this marking scheme, you might have to extend it to 5 steps to be more reasonable, or 4 steps. And this is why you have to prepare, right? It's not so easy as you think. All right. And this is what it said there, the limitation. It's difficult to construct so that the intended response is clearly indicated. All right. And there are some things that the student might come with which you definitely would see as irregular or, you know, insufficient. And then you might have the student who comes with something that you didn't think of or remember. And so when that happens, you still have to open your mind to being flexible enough. And this is why the teacher or the assessor must have adequate knowledge of whatever it is that they are testing. You get where I'm going? So you see all the nuances involved in this one little short answer question. Okay, what is another thing we spoke about last week in terms of the quality of the actual item? I saw something in there that I didn't necessarily like. But can you go down the slides again, please? Go through the slide again. Okay, so we heard that you must keep your short answer items fairly consistent. Is that what you said? That you must make sure your lineup is consistent, the spacing and all of that. All right. No. What was another important guideline she gave in terms of quality of a short answer, to maintain the quality of it? Anything else? Not necessarily formatting, no, but just the quality of the item itself. This is a short answer. It's a constructed, open-ended kind of response item. So what else could you do to make sure that you maintain a certain quality? How best would you use this kind of response item? Okay, what would you target with it? What sort of target would you use this for? Anyone?
Questions asking you to explain or describe, but not necessarily anything for you to recall what was taught.
Yeah, all right, that's a beginning. But explain and describe is, where does that fall? Explain and describe is fine.
It's lower order.
It's lower order, but it's not unreasonable. So you can use short answer questions to start with, let us say, the second level or the third level of your taxonomy, right? So you're targeting cognitive skills and competencies that are a little higher than what you could use otherwise for in the multiple choice. And that's the point she made. She said, reserve these, don't just use them up for the regular lower order type of
knowledge target.
Try your best to, yes, go a little beyond just the regular recall, right? And basic knowledge target if you can, and take it to the next level, because you have the setup to do it with a short answer, because it allows that flexibility, okay? And so a short answer, however, in something like science or mathematics would look a little bit different. It might not necessarily be a fully worded response, right? It could be something that is more numerical, where the student has to work out an application, right? That would be a form of short answer response, yes? Or do some kind of mini analysis on something, but in a numerical, empirical way. All right? Everybody with me?
Yes, miss.
So here is what concerns me though.
Yes,
What
ma'am.
concerns me is, and what I was asking about, is how you word the short answer. And the fill in the blanks or the completion ones is where you really have to be careful. Now, she made the point that when you're doing short answer item and the ideal thing is to remind them again, Carlia, what is the format for writing a very short answer completion type? You had made a point about it. Oh yes, here it is. It says here, students, features of the short are required to produce a phrase or statement, usually 2 to 3 sentences. And so in order to, again, what we were talking about before, where you limit the student, you have to find a way to limit them, okay? When you're working questions. So the best thing to do is to make sure that you specify how much response you require. Do you require 1 sentence? Do you require 2 sentences, or will you allow 3? So you make sure you specify that in the instruction part of the item. So you say something like in 2 or 3 sentences at most. Explain what is socialization. And if you're looking for an example, then you have to say with 1 example. Everybody with me?
Yes, miss.
Yes, yes.
Yes, yes.
You can't just say, what is socialization? You have to specify how long you want the response to be so that the student understands when to stop. All right. The other one that I wanted to point out is the completion type now, where the thing is started, the statement is started for you, and you have to finish the statement. What I don't like about that is that you have to be very careful, because when you say a family is a, do you think that is adequate enough for the student? When you put you start a statement, a family is a.
Yes, I think that is quite adequate.
You think it's adequate?
Yes.
Who else agrees or disagrees? Is there any other thoughts on that?
Earlier you said that the short answers are supposed to go beyond recall and on the facts recall and define definition, and so I wouldn't say that this question is fitted for a short answer question. I could be wrong, but I am not sure.
Yeah, this particular item could be used with a multiple choice, right? With a set of choices. However, to me, it would be best to put some kind of verb that helps the student understand where you're going. So it's short answers, right? And your expectations. One of the things you might want the student to learn is to express things in their own words. So although they might have learned definitions, you can also heighten the competency level by allowing them to express themselves in their terms, in their own words, and maybe even give an example. So you might say to them, describe in your own words the following. A family is a. Describe in your own words. But I wouldn't do it like that. I don't like how it cut off. It's, for me, it's a little abrupt. If it was me, I would say a family may be described as or a family, you get where I'm going? May be described as.
Doc,
Put the yes.
I was thinking that there could be a lot of different responses for this.
Yes.
If
Yes,
definition, they can tell you the different types. They can-
right. And that is why.
It's a mark.
That's why I have a little problem with it. I would say that if you are going to give this kind of question in order to elevate the level of the question and give it better quality, I would put a little more clarity in, a bit more instruction. So maybe, yes, you want them to describe it in their own words, but how are you going to get them to do that? So you could say, provide definitions in your own word, using your own words, provide definitions for the following. Using your own words, provide definitions for the following. And then in order to prompt it up even a little more, you know, you could say, you could ask them something more, maybe, and if it's appropriate, an example, like if it was a type of family that they were describing. Or you could say with one example for each. In your own words, define the following with an example of each. Something like that would help to elevate the level of thinking. But it's a little bit more specific, and it requires a little more competency level, because they might try to remember it exactly from the book, and that is what you want to avoid. You want to teach children to be able to use their own words to explain what they have learned. So you're going to encourage that. Everybody with me?
Yes, miss.
Yeah, all right, let us move on. Thank you, Carlian. Are there any other questions concerning short answer items? She showed you everything. She showed you the format. She showed you that you need to put the marks there, that the instructions, we went through the instructions, but the instructions provide a lot of clarity. So instructions is very important, and how you start. In the case of the completion, how you start it is important. Can you see that for yourself? All right. So those are the things to bear in mind, and all of this is in text, the 2 textbooks that I gave you, as well as the other resources. But people who are not presenting might not have all of, well, all the resources are in the main folder and in the additional resources. But if you fail to go through those resources, you can just resort straight to the 2 textbooks, right? One or the other or both. All of this is in there. Okay, go ahead now with the next section, please. Kimberly, over to you. Thank you, Carla.
Kimberly?
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Constructing essay items for assessment. Now, what are the features of essay items? Number one, it utilizes higher order cognitive skills. What does that mean? It allows for students' reasoning or critical thinking to be assessed. Its ability to synthesize information or compose an argument. So here is where we tug on the students' ability to explain or to build constructive arguments in their own words or with the support of knowledge, what they have learned in class from the textbook, so that they can develop what they understand from a particular topic. So it's moving away from the surface level responses where students get to develop or to prove what they want to say or to describe what they want to say in their own words.
No, ma'am. Be it first.
Can you mute your mic, please?
Guys, keep your mics off when we are presenting. Thank you.
Now, what is an authentic assessment? By posing more complex questions or tasks and requiring responses that students must construct themselves rather than simply recognize the correct response in a predetermined selection. So that was by Wallstad, 2006. So an authentic assessment, it allows for the students, instead of, when we're looking at multiple choice, for example, students were seeing possible options that could be the correct answers. Now in an essay, given an essay, students now are given a topic that they want to argue, and they now have to create their own responses. So they don't have an option to select from. And versus the short answer, the essay, they get to write more. They're given more words to choose from. They can write more sentences. Continuing, number 3, essay items elicit students' response more closely, approximating the kind of behavior students must display in real life. And we got that from our text, POFAM. So in other words, what does that mean? Anyone cares to share? What do you think that means before I give my explanation? What does it mean when a student gets the opportunity to express what happens in their day-to-day activities if they're asked to write about it on paper?
Good day. You get to hear the students' authentic or genuine response.
Yes.
You get to hear their idea, their thoughts, and you get to hear them expressing themselves as to how they view the question you're asking.
Great, thank you so much. Also, as you said that, Natisha, something came to mind. I think teachers also get an opportunity to learn how students are thinking. Does the student understand how to properly express him or herself? Does a student understand how to use past tense versus present tense and other stuff? So I think essay also helps the teacher to see in what ways they can help to improve the skills of the students if they need some strengthening in a particular area, or commend the student for doing so well that they have, quote unquote, mastered certain things concerning the concept and also how to think for them, him or herself. Now, what are some of the cons of essay as a constructed
Sorry,
assessment
so
item?
pay attention to the chat as well, please.
Thanks,
And
Doctor.
writing in the chat, so.
Sorry about that. Thank you.
Mhm,
So Julian
mhm.
said you vet to understand their writing style. Oh yeah, that's a good one. Thank you. So that is so true. We get to understand the writing styles of students. Some students can be very, what can I say? Some students can be very, they can be students who give a lot of joke. So in their writing, you're probably reading away and you are just laughing. Some students can be a little more like lawyers, you know? Yes, so in that way, it helps us to identify the different writing styles of students.
But it's not so much about the writing style as about, which is what I think maybe Julian was trying to say here. It is also about the way they communicate and helping them to develop those communication skills. And here in this slide, organization ability. Because remember now that by doing the open-ended kind of response, you are helping the student to develop those authentic skills, those skills that they're going to have to use in real life. They might become reporters. They might work in an office where they have to write reports, or become a doctor where they have to write down. You ever see a doctor sit down, a trainee doctor, to write out the complete report yet of the patient? It requires quick thinking. It requires the ability to write concisely and yet comprehensively. I mean, the other day, my brother was sick and I had to take him up to the hospital, and a young doctor was dealing with the case. And you should have seen the amount of notes he had to write to explain, right, to his supervisor, the senior doctors, what is going on with this patient, because somebody else has to come along to read it and to be able to comprehend it, right? Not only that, it has to be organized in a logical fashion so that you can follow the process of whatever the patient had before, and what developed and what's happening now, and then the recommended for the future. So this we take for granted. But guess what? We learn them in school. That's where it starts from. Everybody with me? And so that's why, yes, yeah. So we take these things for granted, but when we go out in the real life, and we're not talking, you don't have to be a doctor or a journalist or a lawyer. You can be just working in an office where you have to write a little report or a summary of you know, the week, or you become a supervisor and you have to write a report on each member of staff. I remember that my husband has a liquor business and the supervisor had to give a report, and she even had to rate the employees in there, but she had to also explain why she rate them at whatever level and where their weaknesses lie, and if she's going to recommend them for promotion. You get where I'm going? So a lot of this for granted, but in real life, it is something that we develop during the school process, right? And the more we get the opportunity to write in and organize our ideas in a logical fashion, right? Present them that way and to write clearly and be able to communicate, is the more we will be able to negotiate and survive out there and communicate in the real world. So it's a preparation, it's part of the preparation process. So that is where the real authenticity comes in. Not only that, but giving opinions now, justifying arguments, all of that takes it to the highest level. You get where I'm going? So you don't know where and when, and sometimes we find that we have these skills and these abilities, but we take for granted, we don't realize that we develop it during school and that we had a good English teacher, all right? Or we got a lot of good practice. So we take these things for granted, all right? But it's the essay and the short answer and the presentations that we do are all forms of assessment, right? That help us to develop those kind of real life authentic skills. All right, moving on.
Thanks for your input, Doctor and class. Number 2, another con, restricted content sampling. An essay assessment can only assess a limited number of content covered in a particular course. You don't get a comprehensive evaluation of how much knowledge a student acquired during a particular term of all the content material taught. Question before I expound. Do you agree or do you disagree? Do students really not get the chance to cover a lot of what was learned in the subject area when they're asked to write on a particular essay topic?
Don't call on somebody if no one is answering, please.
Thank you. I like that. Amelia, what do you think? You can give an example in your area of specialization if you wish.
Hi, could you repeat the question, please?
Okay, so I'm asking, do you think when students are given an opportunity to write essays, do you think they're able to cover a lot of what they have learned in class by creating their own, giving their own expressions on the particular essay topic? Or do you think they're limited somewhat?
You mean, all right, so for example, if they're looking at persuasive writing, if when they do an essay, it would cover majority of what we look at, or if they're limited somewhat, that's what you mean?
Yes, that's what I mean.
I would say that they would be limited based on the type of question that they would have been given. So for example, if it's persuasive writing, yes, they would have to employ the persuasive techniques and the different sections of the essay. So you have the introduction, you have the conclusion, but I would say it's limited to an extent. That's what I think.
All right, thank you. Anyone else wish to share?
Sure, I'll just piggyback on what Amelia says.
Thanks,
So,
Shani.
no problem. So read persuasive writing for English courses like narrative writing. So although they're writing a story, we're still testing them on grammar, punctuation, subject-verb agreement. So it's limited to a sense, you know. However, for English courses, we can test them on multiple things when it comes to just essay writing. So yes and no to answer your question.
Okay, but I think she's asking about the content area, not the techniques that they use. Is that what you were talking about a while ago, Shani?
Can I go?
Shamik, yes, please.
Miss, I think it limits, there's a limit to it because say, for example, a topic as broad as migration, the students will have, they might know a lot of information and all of that, but they're not going to be able to give it all at once to the teacher because that might surpass the
the word limit or the page limit that a child is given. That is why it is important for this thesis statement to be there to kind of control in a way the amount of information and the direction that you go in.
Yes, that's true, Shamik. And based on the question as well, maybe you're not asking, and in one question, you can't ask everything that surrounds migration. So yes, they will be restricted.
However, I can see what the point that you are making about English language. If you are using the essay for the purpose of testing the techniques that they learn in English, then there would be a difference. But we are really talking about the content sampling here, where you're testing on the content of a specific area, right? Related to a specific area. Is there anyone who disagrees with those responses and has a different pattern of thought on it? Anyone? Everybody's in agreement. Tiffany, do you agree?
Yes, sir.
You do. What is your area of specialization?
Biology.
Your biology. So in terms of content sampling, you don't really give any kind of essays. You do give open-ended responses, but not necessarily essays, do you? Can you share with us there?
Yes, in some cases, depends on the topic, we can give an essay.
You can give an essay.
But in most time it would be open-ended.
And it would be open-ended. Okay. All right. So it would basically, so you can relate to this thing. That's what I mean in your specialized area.
Most definitely, Doc.
Okay. All right. Roseanne, what's your take?
I think for English, my specialization is English, and I don't think, I don't agree, because if you are teaching a topic, say for instance, as Amelia said, persuasive writing, and you want to assess them, you won't teach a specific topic like globalization, but you will teach them the techniques and the structure of persuasive writing. So in that essay, you would expect to see those coming through. So I don't think it is so limited per se in English.
Okay, so again, I'm going to make the point that you're focusing on techniques here, right? Their ability, their competencies to use those skills. And remember, we had remember the targets, remember the targets, the objective, the particular target. And so in your case, your target, you're talking about skill targets, where you want to see how well they would be able to structure and use the techniques that you teach them, right, in persuasive writing. So the essay would be for that purpose and that objective, and not the objective of testing a content area that would fall into the essay body itself.
I mean, sorry, excuse me, Doc. I'm so sorry. Can I intervene? Oh, I'm sorry. I've stepped away for some time. Can I intervene?
Yes,
ma'am. All right, so I'm not sure exactly, but I know I say restricted content sampling, and I read it. And what I got from it was not the fact that it wasn't speaking about essays being unable to adequately test. I think what it's saying is that it is limited because it's not feasible for you to give 5-6 essays to cover every topic you would have covered within a particular term, or let's say a year. it does not give room for the students to really show what they know in all the areas, because you can only give them so many essays and no more. So it's not that the essay itself is the problem, but it's just that you're not able to give a number of essays to test all the areas to see if they read. So what if the question you gave them or the essay you asked them to write on happened to have been their weakest area? But perhaps if you had given them an essay on another topic, they would have excelled in that area. So that's what I got from it. That's my understanding.
It's two part, because the other response we got on migration, who made that response again?
I'm so sorry, I had stepped away, so I don't know anything that happened. I just came back and heard what
It
Rosalind
was
was saying.
it was Shamik, Doc.
Shamik's response was also valid in that, yes, most of the time they're talking about, when they talk about restricted content sampling, they're talking about sampling of what is covered for the year or for the semester. So which one you think would be more reliable in terms of assessing content sampling? The multiple choice?
Perhaps.
Or the essay type? Which one would be more reliable?
More, or if we're comparing, definitely multiple choice, because you're able to ask more and to cover more, you know, more topics.
Ah, because you can cover more.
Right. More
right.
content.
Right, but at the same time, the response that Shamika made about if the particular topic is too broad, is very broad, the students still might not be able to, even within that piece of content sampling, the subtopic that you are setting for them to do in that essay might still be broad enough that they still cannot cover it in an essay. You get me? So it does apply in both instances, depending, all right, on the amount of content covered. Okay, moving on.
Beautiful discussion. Thank you for your input, Doc, and my colleagues. Great. Moving on. Also, time consumption. No.
Consuming.
Time consuming. An essay can be very time consuming. It can take long to read and allocate a grade to essays. Yes, I do agree, because normally essays can be 3 pages, 2.5 pages, or more, depending on the level that we are grading. So for instance, if a teacher has say a high school class, English class, then sometimes a class maybe, well, depends on the high school, that class could have an average of probably 40 students to one teacher. And that one teacher has to mark all those essays and grade all those essays within a particular period of time. So that's one of the drawbacks to essays. Also, scoring. Scoring can be subjective and unreliable. However, this will be addressed in the guidelines. So what does subjective mean right there? Anybody want to share what they think subjective means when it comes on to scoring?
Relative to the individual, so what the teacher may deem to be a good essay. So for argument's sake, 10 persons can mark the same essay, and it can range from an A to a D, dependent on who marks it.
True, that is so true. And even like at university, and also CXC marking, we have papers that are second marked. So it can work out for the benefit of the student if a paper is marked in the first instance and they probably got a B, or let me say a B minus, and then on the second marking, they probably get a B plus. All right, thank you. Moving on. Now, what are the guidelines for constructing essay items? Number one, so how do you know how to properly and effectively put together a perfect, so to speak, essay item that we want to test our students on? Number one, students should know how extensive their responsive should be. Restricted response and extended response are two ways in which students can be asked to supply their answer. For the restricted response, the question can state how many responses the students give. The word limit can also be stated. So in the restricted response, teachers would state specifically and clearly in the instructions that they would want our essay to be no more than 200 words. So at most 200 words and probably at least 1,500 words. So students have an idea in their minds that, okay, I cannot go over this word limit. So that's a restricted response. In the example, in no more than 200 words, assess 3 ways in which improper garbage disposal can affect citizens. Especially for my social study colleagues, your specialization, do you think this is an effective restricted essay type question? Would you fix it up another way? Is it okay? What do you think? Is it clear enough?
I'm not from social, but I'm thinking it's fine because if it's restricted, the word limit was set. It told how many ways you want. So that's pretty clear as far as I'm concerned. But I don't know.
Okay.
I
Thank
could be
you.
wrong.
Okay, so tick, we did state, since it's restricted, we did state the word limit 200, so we can tick that off, great. And then we stated the amount of examples that we want to be given in the essay, which are 3 ways in which garbage can be disposed of improperly by citizens. Number 2, an essay can also be in the form of extended responses. Generally, this gives students more latitude or range in the number and choice of responses they can make. So there's no restriction. They're not limited to how many, for example, examples they can give to describe what they're asked to discuss. For example, students could be asked to evaluate the causes of the 1938 riots in Jamaica and critically assess its impact on social and economic reforms. And that's a total of 30 marks. Now, based on what I've said about the extended response, looking at this example, do you think we have hit all the nails on the head with the hammer with this example? Is it truly extended or does it show signs of restriction?
I'm not seeing, it just says causes. It doesn't say how many causes. It doesn't say how many impacts. I should have said it's fine to me. And the grade would imply that you need to write quite a bit in order to get the marks. So I suppose it's implied as to how much you need to write based on the weight.
Okay, great. So if there are probably 10 different causes, some students may choose to write on 3, some may choose to write on 5, etc., etc. Any question on restricted versus extended responses for giving essays?
Did you get that example out of the book, out of Popham's book? Kimberly?
I'm sorry, Miss, could you repeat the question?
I'm asking where you got the examples from.
Miss, I was the one who came up with those examples.
Okay. I'm not 100%, because you can have an extended essay, but you still ask for a certain, you still have to guide the student as much as possible in order to have an effective, this is a good effort, don't get me wrong. This is a good effort, but I would prefer to see a little more guidance, even in the extended essay. Now, I just said before, here is what you tell me, class, what is the setback with, say, the extended essay there?
Different persons might write different lengths. So some persons might have more information, as you would have said,
Right.
some might write on 5 points and 10. So perhaps a word limit or suggested, they might say in 1,000 to 1,500 words.
Right.
Evaluate the causes to give them a kind of idea of how much is needed. So I get, yeah.
Yeah, but even more important than that, it might be reasonable to ask them to set a minimum, evaluate at least 3 causes. 1938 riots. It doesn't mean that they don't get to write on a more extensive basis, but your rubric becomes more refined and
you're able to, yeah.
And quality, yes. And so what does this do, you think, in terms of your scoring points? What does it do for the assessor and for the student? What is the advantages of guiding the process a little more?
The students are more attuned to what they know what it is that you're looking for, so to speak. So they're not just out there. They're just writing randomly, not just out there. As well as for the assessor, you'll be able to more accurately, because you have an idea. It won't be as generalized, it won't be as hard or difficult to mark. If that makes sense. I don't know how to word it. Sorry, my brain.
Right. So you could say and critically assess its impact in 4 points or something. Again, because you want to, but if you put the causes, then the 3 causes might, depending on the nature of the question, you would know if the content, if one content would impact the other. So if you say evaluate using at least 3 causes, evaluate 3 causes, a minimum of 3 causes of the riots, 1938 riots in Jamaica, and critically assess their impact. You get where I'm going?
1998 question, would it have been
1938?
Would it have been a little less broad if they had perhaps given them the social reform that they want them to write on, or the particular economic reform, instead of just having them write on, because there probably have been many. So I don't know if it would have been a little more skewed if they were to give them a particular reform that they need to write about, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, that might be too. That's why I said it, well, the teacher has to be familiar,
right,
with the content area and what they have taught in order to be able to properly
construct the essay item, right?
Right. And another thing I want to say is that do you see anything else about that structure of that item that could be refined a little more to assure its specificity, to help the student in terms of formatting? What would you do anything with that sentence to make it even better, more refined? No one have any thoughts on it? All right, so here is what I would have done. I would have broken that into 2 sentences, right? Because when you make a sentence, now I'm not an English major, But based on my knowledge and experience of assessment, I would break that into 2 sentences to make it a little bit easier to read and clearer for the student. When you write long-winded sentences, it tends to overwhelm the student psychologically. It's like when you put the not in the multiple choice questions. Right away, they're trying to figure out all parts of it because it's not as clear. And I think it's the same thing when you make the question, the sentence statement too long for the student to write. So if you had said, evaluate at least 3 causes of the, or identify 3 causes and evaluate their impact on the 1938 riots in Jamaica. But then you want to critically assess. Then you could put that in the next sentence to say critically assess, also critically assess their impact on social and economic reform. Now, if I'm saying it in 2 sentences and I can't put the impact in there, then I'll put it in a different sentence. So if somebody who knows the subject area, can you reword it in 2 sentences for me? So
that could put, I'm sorry, you could also say A, evaluate the causes, etc. B, critically assess. They could use A and B.
Yes, you could. But sometimes you want it to be like one thing and not be too broken up. So you put it in 2 sentences, but not necessarily in 2 parts. You get where I'm going? So in other words, they're doing it in sequence, you know, it's one essay, one big essay, but they don't fit. You might not want it necessarily to look like it's 2 parts, although it's really 2 parts, but you want it to have that flow, you know what I mean? So they don't go and put B, because when they put A and B into the essay, then it suddenly doesn't look like an essay anymore, right? So you see, there is a psychological thing behind that as well. It becomes like 2 short essays instead of 1 essay. So I'm saying you can break it into 2 sentences for just clarity and for ease of reading, right? And you can make sure that it's specific enough that you, the assessor, can mark it in a more fair way, right? And not overtax either the student or yourself. Because if you just put cause and they know 5 causes and you only require 3, it's not as fair to the student who writes 3 thinking, because you know most of us, we have a rule of thumb in writing and we know must write at least 3. But then you have the other student who is not sure if the teacher wants all of the causes or not. So they sit there and they feel uncertain. So they're writing off and they're killing themselves. And because they're trying to get in all the causes, they don't get to finish the critical assessment of the impact. So you see what I'm saying to you? See the picture? So it's best to give some basic guidelines, even when it's an extended essay, enough that you can leave the word limit open, but you know that they know they have to focus on 3, a minimum of 3, right? So once they go with the 3, that's where your marking stops. You're not going to mark 5, you're going to mark 3. That ultimately, that's how it works. You're looking for 3, and once they get to the 3, you know them get full mark, as long as they're plausible. Because you're trying to mark fairly, right? So you're not going to give 3 points to the person who give you 3 and 5 points for the person who give you 5, yes? Hello, can I get feedback on that?
Most definitely.
No, it's important because persons might hear who are not teachers, might not realize the whole logic behind what I'm saying. So I'm putting it out there, and if you don't understand or follow, then ask the questions, all right? Are there any further questions around this? So what is the best and most precise approach to formatting any essay, whether it is restricted or not? Restricted just means that it's very specific. The length of it is very restricted and it doesn't require as much. But the extended essay is a longer essay, more involved, with more development of the concepts involved, right? And it doesn't necessarily have to have a word limit, but it certainly should have key guidelines that is going to aid the assessor in marking it fairly, so that you raise the reliability of the rubric. All right, continue.
Beautiful. Thank you for that discussion and engagement. So always remember, whether restricted or not, the essays must have specific guidelines. All right. Guidelines for constructing essay continued. Now provide 2 essay type questions from your area of specialization, one for restricted and one for extended. All right, so I'm gonna ask someone from math, someone from social and geography, someone from English language, and someone from the sciences. Please, if you could just provide 2 essay type questions. I'm probably gonna give you 3 minutes. 3 minutes to write down, one for restricted and one for extended.
This would have been a good group work assignment. What you could do is break it into 4 groups, you know. It's 4 groups?
Yes, doctor.
You can break it into 4 groups and assign a number to each specialized area.
All right, thank you, doctor. Okay.
Everybody, let's say room 1 is for English, room 2 is for science and math or whatever. Room 3 is for geography, social studies.
All right.
And everybody, and if you are a part of that, you're going to you put the person in that room. They will tell you which room. Or I have to do it.
You can assist, doctor.
You would be able to do it from your side. I can give you host. Should I give you the host, Kimberly?
You can, doctor, and Carlian.
Carlian.
Thank you.
I can do it. You know, yours truly not good at these things. Let me see. That work together. I don't see Carlian, okay. So make host, it's up.
Correct.
And then Kimberly, make host. Okay, so, it can only allow one person to be the co-host. Who wants to be the co-host then, Kimberly or Carlian?
Anybody, miss?
Okay, Carlian is already. I can't do 2 apparently.
All right, so Carlian.
Carlian, you have to.
Miss, I'm not sure what to do, you know.
Oh Lord, Kimberly, you know what to do? All right.
We learn as we go.
I'm learning too.
Are you seeing the option for the breakout room at the bottom?
All right, I just gave Kimberly the host.
All right.
The rooms, did you do the rooms?
You have to have autonomy to do it first, and then you go into the breakout rooms and form them.
Well, you have that. Oh, it's not Kimberly.
Yes, it's Kellyanne.
Kellyanne, sorry. You know, I have my head bad already. Hold on. Sorry. Why you didn't remind me? It's not Kimberly. And Kimberly, she just sit down there and knows that word.
I was glad for the help. Okay, I'm creating the rooms now.
I don't see your name though on the thing.
But I'm already co-host.
Yeah, I'm seeing her as host.
No, Kellyanne, I don't see on the. I don't.
Oh, no, apparently, if Kimberly knows to do it, then they don't need me help.
Oh, I see you know. All right, Kimberly, you know how to do it? Show us.
Apparently, she does. So I guess you don't need my help.
All right, Kimberly, you do it then. So, do I have to open the rooms? Do I have to open the rooms?
Yes, ma'am. You can have them go in, or you can assign them. So it depends. So
hold on, no. Where do I go to? View.
You should be seeing the option at the bottom of your screen. Are you seeing breakout?
I was looking for it, but I don't see it today. I normally see it.
Or maybe too many things. You might probably close the chat or minimize the chat and see if all the options will come up down the bottom.
I'm not seeing it today. I normally see it. You minimize the chat now.
There's a little arrow.
I see the arrow, yeah.
At the top, click on it and you can minimize it.
Minimize it. But I don't see where to do the rooms. Normally I see it at the bottom, but I'm not seeing it today. Where do I click on for the rooms again? I don't see it today at all. Normally.
Right, I'm seeing more. Okay, join a breakout room. Yeah, I'm seeing something about join breakout room.
Oh, the 3 dots. Yes, okay. Oh, but it's only one. Normally I have 4. An option. Yep. Normally,
she created them already.
She
created them already. Yes, we just need to join.
Oh, that's why.
That's why you're not seeing it.
Oh, so she put me in a room because it said join breakout room, but they don't tell me which room I join in.
Oh, because you're not in non-specialization. So only the host is not designated to go into a room, right? She can go to all the rooms and check it.
All right. So, but she hasn't told us which room is assigned to whom.
She's named them, man. Mathematics, EL, and with English language, social and science. Click on it, no miss. Click on the 3 dots, then it got the touch join.
I did, but it only says join. It doesn't.
Click join the breakout room, and it will bring them up.
Oh.
Yes.
How many minutes, please?
You have. I'm giving everyone.
Give them 5 minutes. No, give them 5 minutes.
Okay, 5 minutes.
Okay. 5:36. See you in 5 minutes. Thanks.
5 minutes. Thanks.
Okay, you've got this. Thank you, Kellyanne. Thank you, Miss. Thank you, Carlian.
All right. So Kimberly Kimberly, when you're doing the rooms now, how you do it? You just
you go to the. I thought I shared my screen so that you could see, but I realized you're not.
Didn't share the screen.
Oh, sorry.
Didn't share it. I know. I kind of know how to do the rooms, but
it's not difficult. You click on it
and how do you
just tell them what you want to do? So you tell them if you want them to assign the students automatically, or if you want to assign your students, you can just name rooms. You just click on each slot, rename it.
In what room?
Okay, because we are going in, you don't know who is going to go into what room. Unless you're the host, you can go into the individual rooms and check.
Which room is right. And they go in the room. Okay.
Right. Or if it's a case where you just wanted to put anybody anywhere, it could just put us in rooms. I would just have to go.
No, I know about that one. I know.
Right. But yeah, man, she just name the rooms and we just join the individual room.
Oh, so you give the option to name the room at the top.
Right. You just go to where you belong. Just click on it and join that particular group. So I'm going to join now, so you won't be able to hear
it. Yeah, I will move from room to room.
She has to make you host again, or you can't do that.
Oh, I can't do that. Oh.
No, only the host can do that. So
I might reclaim the host then.
Yeah, you have to do that.
All right, guys.
Hello?
Yes, hello.
Hi, Miss. You're the only one that's in a breakout group, dog?
Right. No, it's okay. I'm going to reclaim and it don't matter.
No, because I was placed in a math group and I'm biology.
So just change your room.
I can do that?
Yes, you
You're
can.
supposed to be able to.
You are the
Okay,
one who
okay.
chose the room.
All
But I
right,
don't
all
see
right.
any
Thanks.
biology here. I see science, go in the science room.
All right, then thanks.
Okay. Probably should have had 2 science because it's a big group.
Oh, it is.
No matter. All right, we give them 2 minutes.
Jason, Javon, Natisha, Tanik, are you in a group? Please.
Jason,
Hello, hello.
please Yam join the room.
Uh,
Javon, Kimberly. No,
yes. If I'm in a group,
you're supposed to be in a group.
right? The original group from the debate.
No.
Sorry.
No, your
No, Jason.
specialization, sir.
Oh, math. Sorry, math. Sorry.
You're to go in the math room.
Oh, okay.
So you go to the 3 buttons at the bottom,
Right.
and you see join room, and it brings up the different rooms.
Different breakout rooms. Okay.
Yes,
Math.
and then you join
Oh.
your room.
Thank you. Thanks.
And the same thing, Javon. Javon, did you hear? Natisha? Natisha? Shamika not in a room.
Miss, my Wi-Fi went out, so I'm just rejoining.
Okay, go in a room. Just click on the 3 dots at the bottom where it says more.
Okay, Miss.
Join breakout room and go in the room that your specialization is in.
Okay, Miss.
Try it. You see the 3 dots at the bottom?
Yes, Miss, I'm
Natisha. Hello, Natisha.
Doctor, you don't want to join one of the sessions?
No, because you're nearly finished now.
Yes, they're almost finished.
They're going to share in the main room.
Yes.
Whole idea. All right, so we can, let me tell them, please close, please return.
Miss.
You think I get ghosted now, you know? It's the first time I've ever done that. I saw how to do it. You just broadcast the message. So, okay. So now I'm going to close the rooms, right? And they all have to return. Sasha Gay. Okay. Think I should close now? Because they'll stretch it out, you know. Okay, so we're closing. 57 seconds left. Everybody will soon be back. Give them a lot of time. Okay, is everyone back?
No, Doc. We only have 10.
I closed off the rooms.
14 seconds remaining, then
Oh,
they
okay.
have to be back.
Okay. It will throw them back into the main room.
Right. Right, Doctor.
Yeah. And I sent a message.
We got it loud and clear, Doc.
It's the first time I've ever done it.
See, now everyone is here.
Well done.
Good job.
Okay, good. All right, so you still have sharing privilege. So what you need to do now, you can upload back your PowerPoint. I don't see it, took it down.
Welcome back, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the little session with your colleagues in the different specialization groups. Now, who wants to go first? Dip, ini, mini, mani, mo. Is it math? Is it social studies / geo? Or is it gonna be English language? Or somebody from the different sciences? All right, I'm just gonna pick someone out. The hat, shaking, 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 shaking. All right, math, you're up first. Tell us what you have.
So for math, we were only able to come up with the restricted one in the time. So we were thinking that you could say something like discuss 3 advantages or give 3 advantages of using the mean over using the median.
Could you just restate that one more time for us, please? Discuss 3
advantages of using the mean over the median, or the mode, the mean over the mode.
All right, so what are the things that are good attempt? What's missing with that, or how could that be improved for a restricted essay?
The word limit.
The word limit could be put there.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else? Listen to the question again. Say it again.
Discuss 3 advantages of using the mean over the mode.
You can discuss 3 advantages.
You could probably say explain.
All right, nothing. Explain 3 advantages. That's fine, but that's not the problem. No, really. Well, how could it be improved? It's not that it's wrong, it just needs a little more. So how could you make it? Remember about the stem of any question? You just have mean and mode. We don't know the context that you're talking about. I have no clue. Mean and mode sounds very scrappy in the sentence that you are. So how could you improve on that?
Well, sorry, Doc. I think in math it should be fairly clear. When we speak about mean, median, and mode, what we're trying to, what we trying to have the students compare. Yeah. I'll stick with what Brittany, how she framed it, mean over the median. Let me stick with that. Yeah. So for the math person doing that type of question, I think it should be clear. That's just my opinion.
Well, we can't take anything for granted, and so you need to be clear. It's clear enough for me.
Okay.
Somebody else coming along and reading.
Clear in the sense that you want me to tell you what the mean is, or the mean of what?
No, I want you to put to craft the question in a full-bodied way so that it is completely clear to the reader. It must read as a full-bodied question. It must not make assumptions.
I'm not sure how you would make assumptions from it, because as a student, if I see...
I'm not asking you to make assumptions. I'm saying to you, Jason made a point that it is taken for granted, and I'm saying do not take it for granted. Make it clear.
So you're saying we need to explain what, that's what Brittany was asking us. We need to explain what the mean and
no, you don't need to explain what the mean and the, because that's what you're asking the person to explain.
To compare.
Explain is the context that you want it to be given.
All right. So we need to give them a set of data then. We'll give them some data points and say based on this set of data, which would be I hope I'm
this is an essay question, you know, it's not a multiple choice or a matching or a so they are doing mathematics, but when you're writing the question, I'm saying
make it clearer.
You must write it completely.
Okay. Give them the mean and median
context in the sentence. So when you're writing the question, you're asking for them to explain the mean and mode in mathematics or whatever area of mathematics that you are referring to. All right?
We need to put in the context of Latin statistics, for example, like the subject area, Doc? Or
I'm saying provide something that will give it a little context. You're writing in sentence form, you know.
Right.
Writing in abstract form. Writing a constructed essay item is done in complete sentences, and what you're giving is a kind of an abstract sentence.
A phrase?
A complete in the sentence, so it doesn't have any context to it.
Okay. Given a set of data, which measure of central tendency is preferable to use, the median or the mode, mean or the median?
Given a set of data in what?
Numerical data. Numerical data.
Mathematics. Is it mathematics that you're talking about?
Yes. So numerical data.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You need to give it context and complete the idea, the sentence.
Right. So given a set of sorry.
Given a set of data in mathematics.
Okay.
Explain the mean and the mode or whatever. I'm just using what I'm saying to you. You got to give it a context.
Make sure
so that it have a little substance to it, because it have a little background. I don't know. We could take for granted somebody coming along and reading it could have. Let us say the item was retrieved for another paper.
Right.
it could be that the person take it up and think it means science.
Okay.
You haven't given it any kind of basis on what you're talking about. You can't just assume.
Okay.
So this is not one of the items, the select items. This is a full-bodied question where you're asking for the construction of an essay or a short answer essay or short answer item. So you need to construct the STEM in such a way that it has adequate context. We don't take certain things for granted. Understand?
I think that, yeah, I think that a little clearer now.
Right.
Yeah.
So you give it a little substance, a little background, a little context. It can just be that one subject area. And for me, that's what it was. It just, I didn't know which subject area.
Oh, it wasn't
And
appropriate.
I'm saying to you that even without that, it sounded cut short, basically. Except the mean and the mode and finish, boom.
Okay. Well, I think it was compare. Compare, I think you can
compare the mean and the mode.
right. Or which one would be
or in a mathematical set or something, whatever it is that it's applicable to. Give it that completeness then. Everybody understand me? Don't take it for granted. All right? Complete sentences. So they're fully understood.
Doc, would it be-
Anyway, that's a good attempt.
yeah, man, would it be okay to just say like numerical?
It needed to have the word limit because it was a limited, wasn't it a limit restricted essay?
Yes, I believe it was restricted.
Right. Is there, and from you give it the essay restriction, even though they're comparing, would it have more than 3? Or would it be something that it wouldn't be as much as 3? Because if it's a situation where they could give you one student can give you 1 comparison and another student can give you 3, then you need to be more specific.
Okay, yeah. So we need to say give at least 2 reasons, maybe something like that.
2 reasons, or
at least 2 reasons.
make 2 comparisons, or explain 2 differences.
Okay.
Mean and modium. Mean and mode in mathematics or in the particular area of maths that they're doing.
Okay.
Understand?
Mhm.
So what about the extended one? Did you make an attempt? Any attempt there?
Didn't quite reach that one, Doc.
All right, so
can I propose though, again in a mathematical context, write on at least 2 key figures who have contributed to trigonometry. Write out at least 2 mathematicians then who have contributed to our current knowledge of trigonometry.
okay. How would you like to guide them in that? So they could write at length.
Right.
And
And that's just me.
guide them.
Yeah, that's just me talking, Doc. Not having discussed with the group. So it's yeah,
Well, it's not bad. It's not bad. It's a start, but it's still for sake of the marking now. How would you give some guidance? Yes, it's okay. So you're expecting that they would write a good 2 pages or more, right?
Yeah.
Extended essay, meaning you haven't given them any limitations at all.
Right. So
is it that you are hoping for them to produce unlimited pages as much as they can write? 6 pages, some people write 6 pages in a short time.
give a concise
Well, you don't want it to be too concise if it's
Okay.
if it's an
Extended.
unlimited essay, but you still can give some guidelines, like you can say, talk about whatever. Specifically, you can, if you want it to have more substance, you could guide them in saying what, you know, in focusing their attention on certain things that you want them to do.
Brief history of the mathematician.
Provide a brief history.
Yes, and the theorem that they are famous for.
There you go.
With an explanation of the theorem.
With an explanation of their theory. You get where I'm going. So no, that is good. And then you could say no more than 2 pages or something.
Right. Okay. Yes, that's that.
So you see the difference in guiding the student.
Yes, Miss. It's very open way I said it initially. Yeah.
Right. All right. So that is 2 examples there. Next, specialization. You can take back over. Kimberly.
All right, thank you for guiding that, Doctor, and thank you, group mathematics, well done. Now, shaking my hat. Okay, hand going in, picking up. All right, sciences, you're up. What do you have?
So we looked at restricted and extended. The restricted one is in the chat. I cannot go back and forth.
I can read it for you.
You want me to read it?
Yeah, go ahead, teammate. Thanks.
For the restricted one, we have in no more than 200 words. Describe the most appropriate method of salt preparation for sodium chloride and barium sulfate. In your response, include balanced chemical equations for each salt. That's the restricted one.
They really write that in 200 words is less than a page. 250 words is a page if you're typing.
Well, the number we were rushing.
So I just asking, you know, I just asking about the practicality of it. Is it possible?
Well, we can increase the number since it's just 1 page.
But remember now, you know, you're looking for a restricted essay. So you don't want it to be too long. So you have to make sure that the content that you ask them to express is they're able to do it in that amount of pages. Okay.
Yes, they would probably need about 50 more words or 250 words.
Okay. So 1 page then or so. Okay. All right. So next one.
I can read one that my group member shared for the extended essay. We're just throwing it out to see if it works. It says oxygen acts as the final electron acceptor in the electron transport chain. The poison cyanide binds to the electron carrier cytochrome oxidase. Explain how cyanide stops ATP production by the mitochondria. That's what I have.
That's the extended essay. So all of you talk about it now. You're going to have to.
Yes, that's for the extended essay.
Soon.
Let me just find out from my team.
Those who are in that area comment on it. So, who are in science.
Yeah, Kadeen.
I'm here. Is there a question?
Yes, for the extended.
The extended essay, I think we have more than one ways of this are explaining, right? So don't want to limit them. So that part, I'm not specializing in bio, but I'm just saying based on what Kadeen said, that cyanide can actually stop ATP production in more than one ways. It's not the essay can go on and on and on.
Okay.
So that would target the unlimited nature of the extended essay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So wait, no, and that's what we spoke about before. So although it is an extended essay, it doesn't mean it's unlimited.
Well, it's not
Okay, so we can.
but
so if there is, and how do you mark it? That's the first thing you have to think of. How am I going to mark this fairly if I allow them complete autonomy? If they're just free to write, and one writes 6 pages and one writes 3 pages, how am I going to mark them fairly? What am I going to use as a basis?
I mean, you'd need a rubric to mark this question because there are a few things that the students would have to mention in their essay. So even if they write like a 6-page essay and there are certain things that they don't mention, and if somebody else writes a 3-page essay and mentions everything, the person with the 3-page essay would get the marks for the question, as opposed to the person with the 6 pages who did not include specific things that would be required for them to mention.
Okay, so what would it taken for granted that they would have to mention those things?
Yeah.
To do the explanation.
They would have to mention a specific amount of art. So now I'm using the term specific. There are certain things specific that they will have to mention to say this is how cyanide stops ATP production. So there are certain things that they would have to mention, even if they are allowed to just write it in their own words.
Right, okay. But you also said there is more than one explanation that one person can give. That would be correct, right? Is it?
Well, I'm just taking a gander, but I'm assuming that for each step, while persons can explain it in their own ways, I'm assuming that there are certain stages that are unique for this process. So it would just be a matter of interpretation, but they would still have to align.
So you're saying that, so you're looking for them to write out all the stages, right?
I would want to assume so. Yes.
I'm asking.
Yes, because it's a think of it like a process. Cyanide has to block something. Go ahead.
All right. So tell me the question again. So say it again.
Let me just read it. So the question is oxygen acts as the final electron acceptor in the electron transport chain. The poison cyanide binds to the electron carrier, cytochrome oxidase. Explain how cyanide stops ATP production by the mitochondria. I can post it in the chat so other person.
Okay, so unless you could improve it by saying, explain the process involved for the student who might need a little more guideline. So in other words, you're looking for that process and they cannot deny that you did not guide them in writing out the process. I'm just saying you have to find every which way that you can say the thing, that you can set it out to help to guide the students' thinking and to avoid misinterpretation of the question, right? Because sometimes in your mind, you think it has to go this way, but the student is interpreting it in another way. You get what I'm saying? So as much as possible, right, without telling them the answer, and still giving them that autonomy to write, you try to guide them as to what you're expecting, your expectation is. And in doing that, you're also looking to make your rubric specific enough that you are marking fairly well, and that if somebody else, if another teacher takes up that question, right, and you give them the rubric, they would be able to mark and get almost the same mark as what you got, because your guideline in your question, right, align with as closely as possible to the rubric that you set out. All right.
So we could improve the last sentence by saying, explain the mechanism in which cyanide stops ATP production.
Yes, if you
okay, understood.
that would help without you get me? Explain all the mechanism or explain the process involved.
Oh, okay. So we just, I think,
So, right, to improve your question as much as possible, guide the student and guide your rubric. Always remember, every time you write a question, every time I write, say, okay, how am I going to mark this question fairly? How am I going to break it down so that I can, you know, ensure that everybody has the same kind of the expectation is there, they understand, and they can see how I did the marking. Because when you don't do enough of that, what it does is it leaves it too open for subjectivity. All right?
Understood.
Some things are just opinions, but you're still giving enough guidelines that they know exactly what kind of rationale or build-up or argument you're looking for. Okay, so next group, over back to you, Kimberly.
Thank you, Doc. Well done, science group. Well done.
Well done.
Now, out of my hat, I'm shaking again. Let me see which group comes up. Okay. Social studies / geography. Let us hear what you have.
Okay, so for social studies and geography, I was thinking about grade 7 students, and I did it really simple. So for the restricted, in no more than 200 words, explain 3 effects of population growth in Kingston. So that's the restricted. I used the same question for extended, but I changed it a little bit to show the difference.
Okay.
For example, evaluate at least 3 effects of population growth in Kingston, Jamaica. So that's what I had.
Evaluate means, no, you know what evaluate means?
I was thinking of going for a high order level of questioning.
Right, but I'm saying to you, do you know what it is in that context? How would you put, what would evaluate look like now on your rubric when you break it down? What you would be looking for in that term, evaluate?
An explanation?
No.
Like an assessment. So I know it will go to a deeper level of thinking in terms of
what would your rubric look like for somebody that's evaluating as against somebody who's explaining?
So maybe you could add another sentence to say include at least 3 causes and the effects or something like that. I don't know.
If you say evaluate, nothing is wrong with evaluate. You know what evaluate means. And if the student understands what you have there in the content is evaluable. Is the content evaluatable? You're asking them about what again? What's the content?
The effects of population growth.
Evaluate the effects of population growth. So if they're evaluating the effects of population growth, what are they looking for? Is it just are they going to just explain the effects? Would that be evaluating?
No.
Not just explaining.
But it is grade
Absolutely
7,
not.
that deep.
No.
It's
So
still
you,
grade 7.
so you look for them to explain the effects first,
Mhm.
date out, and then what else would you be looking for? Population growth.
So look at the impact it has on Kingston. So like increased maybe housing or the demand for food.
But wouldn't that be
And that would be the effect, right?
or the impact?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I don't, perhaps ways to, I don't know, curtail it, ways to. It's me not really know, I'm stressed out.
Well, you need to be clear to the student. You can't, hello, or you're going to develop your rubric. And how the student going follow what you say if you don't know what you're saying. If
That's
you don't
true.
expect. Oh, the poor student.
I'm just here thinking grade 7, evaluate, that word that kind of big.
Kind of hard for
For grade 7, if it's grade 7, I'm like, whoa there.
If you are evaluating something, what are you doing? What did we say evaluate connotes when we started this course? You remember that term evaluation?
Mm-hmm.
What did we say it connotes? It involves?
To assess.
Assess is not a good enough word. What did we say that it does specifically when you evaluate? We said you evaluate an assessment and tests in test results and so on. You take all the test results.
You make a judgment.
Information. Thank you, Kellyanne.
You make a judgment.
Thank you, Kellyanne. Repeat that for the class again.
Judgment, you make a judgment.
You make judgment calls based on
the findings, the results.
The results, whatever information you collect or you put out there. Then you go a step further now to make decisions. And when you make decisions, what do you do in the judgment call? What does the judgment call involve? What did it involve when we started the course and we were doing the case study with Mr. Mason? What did he do?
Mr. Mason, oh, he went to the other subject teachers and got, yes,
feedback
from them, the data.
And what?
And something about the guidance, to place them based on their career path, you know, so he was giving them guidance as it related.
What did he make with the judgment calls?
Oh, he made that.
He had to make
a decision.
He made a decision.
Yeah, a recommendation or a decision.
He had to give recommendations.
Right.
That's evaluate.
So that deep for grade 7 in essence, that's what you're saying.
So you've got to understand how you use your verbs, okay? It's very important. And it's important to the student.
Right.
Tell the student to evaluate when you really mean explain.
Okay,
right?
explain.
And I remember I was doing some reading, I think it was for the same essay, and they said that we should, well, generally, you ought to use language with which you know the students might be familiar. So you don't want to throw a word from them in the exam that you have never exposed them to throughout the term or the year. That is unfair.
Thank you,
again,
Kellyanne.
the aim is not to trick them or play them mind games. The aim is to really,
remember, we went through all of that. So therefore, if it is that you want those younger students to learn, and even older ones to learn how to use their higher order thinking, but you don't want to overwhelm them in a test situation, right? By using the word evaluate, and you're not clear as to what evaluate means. Then you spell it out. You say, based on whatever situation. So you give it a 2-part. You say, explain the effects, and then you say, what is your opinion based on the impact that so-and-so has? What is your opinion? Why do you have that opinion? Or something like that. Give your opinion with reasons, and that would be evaluate. You get where I'm going?
Yes,
or what suggestions would you have based on what suggestions would you have and why would you have those opinions? You get me? Or why do you give those suggestions? All right, so that's it. Are you understanding the difference now? You got to pitch your questions at the level of the students' competency, their grade level, age, and what they have learned. And you've got to put enough in the question that helps to guide the student in a gentle way. Don't try to overwhelm them with big language that they might not understand, okay? And if it involves more than one stage of thinking, more than one level of thinking, and they are not older students that know what, say, evaluate mean, you yourself don't know what it means. You have to think to yourself, always go back to, how am I going to set this up in my marking guide or my rubric? How am I going to break it down so that when I'm marking, I know what I'm looking for specifically. So even when it's extended, you still have some guidelines there in your marking so that anyone can pick up your rubric and mark on the same kind of basis that you did, because you've made it clear enough as to what you're looking for. All right, understand, guys? Okay, back over to you again, Kimberly.
All right, very good team. Thank you, Doc and Kellyanne and everyone who inputted. Wonderful. Now, I only have one paper left in my hat. So English language, can you do us the honors in telling us what you have?
So for the restriction question, we have read the following passage below carefully and summarize the reasons for population growth in developing countries. Do not exceed 120 words. And for our extended question, we have enrolling in the sixth form program should be mandatory for all students in 1,000 to 1,500 words. Give 3 reasons in support of or against this argument. So that's what we came up with. Kim?
There's
Okay,
silence. I'm
good.
not sure what to make of it. Yes. I almost thought I fell off.
Can you read over the restricted first and then give us a little process time?
Read the passage below carefully and summarize the reasons for population growth in developing countries. Do not exceed 120 words.
That sounds fine to me.
Sounds fine to me too. Not to be biased, but yeah. Because I mean, within that context, because some persons might argue that it's too broad, you know, why we say the reasons, but then given that they have a passage and it's a summary, then they have the confines within which to work. So it's not like we just have them out there wandering. They can only give us, you know, based on what is given to them in the passage.
Right.
That was the logic behind it.
Yeah, that's fine. That one is fine.
The next one?
Yes, thanks.
All right, so the next one is enrolling in sixth form. Enrolling in the sixth form program should be mandatory for all students. In 1,000 to 1,500 words, give 3 reasons in support of or against this argument. So that's our extended question.
Isn't
It needs
adding
some.
1,000 to 1,500 words still restricting them?
We thought about it again, but then Miss was saying that we still need to have some kind of confines. I mean, it's not like we said do not. I mean, I don't know. I thought about it, but
It's not
again,
like we said do not.
exceed, but you still don't want them to write 500,000 words. You know,
Too
so I
much.
don't know. So generally, still, I don't know. Could be wrong, Miss.
The only thing is that the reasons, you could say provide at least 3 reasons.
Provide at least. Okay.
I would say, you should add another little component to that for extended. Because it's not restricted to me. I mean, how long can a reason be?
Well, I mean, but I mean, you see, but they know it's an argumentative essay, so they would have to.
But if you say argument, no.
Yes, it said for the argument. Yes, again.
So said give 3 reasons in support of or against the argument.
So they would know it's an argument.
No, but you can't say 3 reasons in support of. If you're giving the argument, then an argument look at both sides and fortifies the side that they agree with.
I suppose it was supposed to have been
in support of.
Yeah.
Well, it's argument.
Well,
so,
it's yes, they can really choose.
yeah. So what they would do is they would show the negatives. They would lay out what they think is the reasons are in support of, and then they would show where the other.
Okay. No, well, hold on. No, really, with the argument, you still have to pick a side, you know, but you'd have to have like a one paragraph saying that, okay, I acknowledge that there is another side. However, I am still of
I
this
agree to so and so.
Right. So you still have to acknowledge, because that's an argument. You're acknowledging that, yes, there's another side. And I see how you could see that. However, I still believe that XYZ, or I still disbelieve, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't, it's still.
And do you need them to give, by the way, you guys, you must always tell the student to make sure they give examples, because writing essays without examples, most essays need some kind of example to show that
illustration of some sort.
To illustrate. And a lot of times the student writing their theoretical terms, and they don't fortify it with any example because you didn't say it.
That is true.
Some students know that they are to give examples because they have that, you know, they
experience or the knowledge, right?
Yeah, they have studied it. So they
right.
know. But oftentimes students lose marks because you take for granted that they should have an example, but you didn't tell them.
That is true.
But you go and put it on your rubric, example given. You put the mark in for example, but you never say nothing about examples. Because, so technically, you're marking unfairly because you didn't say with examples.
Right.
You just so you know you can't take that for granted.
Noted.
So you should always say with examples.
If that's what you want, right?
Yeah, if it illustrates. You just not a line to say illustrate your response with examples.
All right, or substantiate, or
or something.
Yeah, something like that.
That they will understand at their level.
Right.
Okay, moving on.
Thank you, Miss. Thank you, English specialization. Well done, teams. I trust you have made your notes. Wink, wink. I've seen in the chat where Britannia and others have been, highlighting same. So well done. Thank you, Miss, for guiding the discussions as usual.
Well, thank you for acknowledging that very much.
Thank you, Miss. You're welcome. Okay. I must say, by this activity and collaboration and engagement, we have pretty much covered majority of what we need to know that's remaining in the slides about the guidelines for constructing essays. All right, so Carlian,
move on to the rubric.
Yes, rubric. Rubric. Thank you, Miss. Now, a very important aspect of essay writing and assessing an essay is the rubric part of it. Now, what's a rubric? A rubric is a scoring guideline that determines how a piece of work is to be judged, underlined, judged, or evaluated. The use of rubric oftentimes eliminates subjectivity in grading assessment works. A rubric should always be provided for supply response. So anytime we give constructed response items, we must always provide a rubric to the students so that they can know what to focus on, so that they can target their responses well. A rubric has three main components. What are they? Number one, a criteria. Number two, performance descriptors. And number three, point values. So let me pause here. Any comment on rubric? Would you like to know how can you develop an effective rubric for your students, no matter the grade level, the type of constructed response item, or even in support of your answers that you gave from the group activity? How would you construct a good rubric for that?
I'm not sure I understand the question. Like I heard it, but I'm not sure I understood it. Can you rephrase it or say it again?
All right, sure. So the rubric is the main guideline for giving any supply response question. Now, from what we discussed and what you have done in the group work, based on the questions per se,
right?
What guidelines do you want to give to the students to ensure that they answer those questions effectively so that they can get all the marks? So if you want to focus on the word limit, one, if you want to focus on what guidelines you want to give them according to the different reasons that they should give, you can focus on one area and tell me what outcome are you looking for? What potential outcome are you looking for so that students can know how to respond?
Kimberly, can you probably just go through these two slides?
Yeah, I think I'm a
Maybe
bit
for persons
lost.
to get a better understanding, right?
Slide 26.
Just go through a little first.
Slide 26.
26, yeah. So, you know, you must have some criteria set out. You usually have what you call your descriptors and your point values.
Starting with number 2, performance descriptors. So these should be excellent, satisfactory, needs improvement. Another way to look at it could be exemplary, good, satisfactory, needs improvement, or exemplary, proficient, satisfactory, needs improvement. Or it could be done by a numerical rating, like we often see in our rubrics that are given by our lecturers. So for the performance descriptors, we want to show the student what an excellent grade would look like, or what a grading for satisfactory would look like. If they, for example, if they're asked to give at least 3 reasons why pollution occurs in a particular area, and the students only give 2 reasons, then they would have fallen short of an excellent mark per se, because they have failed to cover at least 3 reasons. So in that case, we probably could have stated that the responses were probably satisfactory. And if the points were not developed strong enough, we probably could have said that the points in that area, there's room for improvement. All right, so remember, the performance descriptors is like a range or a categorizing of how well the essay questions can be answered. Now, looking at this, sorry that the wordings are so hard to see, but for the sample rubric in front of us, there are different categories. There are 5 categories in which students will be marked for. The first category is the introduction or the organization of their introduction. Is it clear? Does it have a flow? And in our second column, first row, in order for the student, the highest mark that can be given for the introduction is 4 points. And if students have covered all the key components to get these 4 points, then they'll get these 4 points. If they have fallen short in some way or another, they can get a 3, they can get a 2, or they can get a 1. Picking one more of these categories, let me go to number 3. Number 3 says support for topic, which focuses on the content of the essay. So now writing on each part of each main point that was given in the thesis statement, how well was it supported in the body of the essay, in developing the essay? Again, there are 5 possible marks. If the students have covered all the area, then they'll get their full 4 marks. If they're fallen short in some way, then they can either get a 3, a 2, or a 1. Or if they have not answered given support any at all, then they'll get a 0. So this is just an example to show you how we use performance descriptors to help to guide the development of the rubric and to ensure that students have specific targets to answer the questions in the essay.
Go to put your thing though.
Where criteria is concerned, so on the criteria, this is where it tests the knowledge and the understanding of the topic. And it can be, the range for that could be excellent. Has the student given enough information, enough insight into what they were asked to describe or to evaluate?
Miss Kimberly, just to intervene a little. I just wanted to point out that whenever you set an essay or whatever constructed response type item it is that you're writing, you determine the area that you want to grade your students on. So that's where the criteria will come in. So it's not something that is set in stone. It's you, the teacher, who decides what it is that you're looking out for in the answer. So you come up with your own criteria. And the same goes for the standard. You can use different categories that you wish to use. You can use excellent, satisfactory, proficient, needs improvement. So all of this is up to you. It's what you want when you set the exam. In your head, what is it that you're looking to grade your students on? What are the answers that you're looking for them to produce on the paper? So you decide how you're going to grade them, basically.
However, I just want to say that in the case of an essay like you see that sample she showed first with, go back to that the first example. If it is that you want them to follow the standardized format of an essay, which a lot of times in exam situation, we don't necessarily put emphasis on certain things. We put more emphasis on them coming up with the arguments and with the content. Things like the format of, say, introduction and conclusion. We don't necessarily put and even grammar in an assessment situation, a test situation. We don't often put a lot of emphasis on that. And so it's important that if you are requiring it, that you also mention it in the question. So in other words, you write the question and you say, please provide an introduction and conclusion. You will be marked for grammar. You might do that for a homework, a take-home assignment type of assessment. But in a test situation, under test conditions, you might not necessarily require all of that. And so you need to be clear about that, okay? I also want you to explain the difference between what is an analytic rubric and a holistic rubric, because that's important. Carly-Ann, would you be able to explain that?
Yes, Miss, I can try. All right. A holistic rubric basically is where the teacher, he or she, they have a particular set of criteria in mind, but they're not necessarily grading the essay based on different aspects. They read through the essay and they grade it based off the impression that it leaves on them. Yeah. So they just read through, they're not taking it apart and say, okay, I'm going to give 5 marks for introduction, or I'm going to give 5 marks or 10 marks for how they explain. They don't assign a specific grade to specific items. Right. They just grade it as a whole. So when they read it, yeah.
Okay. So the difference now with the analytical is that?
With the analytical now, they assign a specific grade for each criteria that they have. So if it is that they ask, in English, they might ask the students to write, say, a letter. What? Miss, I'm getting a little this.
Oh, is that your child?
Yes, Miss.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
You want to take over?
So in English, if you're asked to write a letter, there are different segments of the letter. Someone from English specialization, can you assist me? What are some features of a letter? You have the salutation or greeting. What else is there?
The body of the letter.
The body of the letter, great. There, I think there are 2 more parts. You good, the closing. Any other part missing?
In the address at the top?
Yes, and the address. Thank you. Great. So the teacher could say for the salutation or greeting, I'm going to give 5 marks to that. To the closing, probably 2 marks. And to the body of the letter, probably say 5 marks, and to the address, probably 4 marks. So they read the letter and then they look carefully at these different parts, these different makeup of the letter. And then if the student has written each part correctly or needed some improvement on each, then they grade it accordingly. So this is where they'll say for the introduction, not the introduction, sorry, for the salutation and greeting, which I believe I said 2 marks. If it was well written and no errors, then that student would have gotten 2 out of 2. So that's it. It's in the word analytical. They analyze each segment carefully and then mark accordingly.
Right.
I don't know if anyone has a simpler way to say it if you want to attempt.
So can I ask a question here now for clarity for the class? Does the holistic rubric contain set out all the components of the criteria? Does it set them down without giving them a specific grade?
Good question.
Look on your rubric, because we can't make it out. That's the problem. Here is a holistic rubric. Can you bring it up some more for us? But that's how you have to do it.
You can slideshow it.
And increase the slide, no? Put on the slideshow. Let us see if we can see it, because this is hard to see. Okay, so here is an analytic rubric. I can't make it out. You can increase it at the top, you know. I think you can. View, you can do full screen. Students, can you see it better now? Can you see it a little better?
It's a little better.
I put it on full screen. Okay, so if you notice, when you look at the holistic rubric, because I don't think I don't think you fully understand what they mean by holistic. When you look at the holistic rubric, you notice that all the descriptors are there, but why you keep changing it?
Miss, I'm having a little difficulty. Sorry, class.
But it was fine, and you took it off. I was trying to work with it. I just need to point out to the class because I don't think they're getting it. They're getting the point. When you look at this holistic rubric here, if you notice, all the descriptions are culminated into one box. So it has demonstrates a thorough understanding of the mathematical concept, but may contain errors, right, that do not distract. Indicates that the student has completed the task correctly using mathematical. So it culminates all of the descriptors, the main descriptors that it wants to look at, and it gives 2 points for that. In the second one, it culminates all the descriptors, all the criteria, but at the same time, it will mention where the student would lose a mark. You get me? So that would be a holistic rubric because all the criteria is culminated into one box. And where there is a lower an area criteria that you could lose marks on, it will mention that. Okay, so it might say you have, for instance, it says in the first box correctly, in the second box, it says correctly addresses some elements of the task. But in the top box, it says demonstrate, indicates that the student has completed the task correctly. So in other words, you have all elements of the task. You get where I'm going? So it puts it all into one box, but it still indicates where you would lose a mark, but it's all culminated into one box, all the descriptors. Whereas, go to an analytic rubric now. In the analytic rubric, what it does is to break down every single area that it wants to focus on and gives a mark for that. So instead of putting the quality of education, the critical thinking, the collaboration, professional language, all into one box and say all of those are exemplary, so that would be 4. And then the next one would be, so you would have something like exemplary good, but under each box, you would have all of the criteria listed, starting with what is exemplary, and then it would show you within the same box where you could lose a mark. So it might say for good, it might say that critical thinking was not adequate or you know, showed some critical thinking, but not all. You notice that it breaks it down here instead of culminating everything into one and showing you where in that box you could lose a mark. So that is the difference. It's more specific and breaks down all the areas, all the sections, as you can see here, more specifically, instead of just giving them ratings. Go back to the other one again. Let's look back at the other one again. The holistic rubric. That's not the best example, but okay, so let's bring up this one. In this one, what kind of rubric would this one be? A holistic or a, oh, you're going back to this one again.
Well, the one that you showed earlier would be analytic.
Yes.
Because it's breaking it down.
Because it would break. This one would be more holistic. You get me, guys? The holistic one, no, it would give a description of both the organization, the content, the grammar, and everything in one box, and give it a rating. And you can set up the rating. This one just has points, but it could have, under the 2 points, it could have said exemplary. Under the 1 point, it could have said good. And under 0 points, it could have said inadequate. All right, so there is slight variation, but these are just an idea. If when you look in your book, and I gave you specific articles in your resources that speak to developing rubrics and marking scheme, I gave you some specific readings in there. And you can look in Popham and in Qubits or whatever the other textbook is. Both of them have things in there to guide you, samples. And I think you will also see my PowerPoints that I gave you as well, which is where some of this is coming from, I believe. Go to what other slides you have. Any other slides? So that's the difference between analytic rubric and holistic rubric. The word rubric really tends to go with some kind of rating, descriptive rating, where they use the word exemplary or good and inadequate. Usually that is more aligned with what is called a rubric. Other than that, it becomes a mark scheme, so to speak. A mark scheme does not necessarily tabulate the whole thing with those kinds of descriptions that you saw there, those kinds of ratings. This excellent, satisfactory goes with a rubric. A mark scheme does not necessarily use those kind of descriptions. The mark scheme might just break down the thing, the different areas, and give it some mark, each area a mark. But it doesn't necessarily box it up in a table, and it does not necessarily give it a rating. All right, a descriptive rating like excellent, satisfactory. It just gives numeric ratings. Any other slides you have? Anything else?
That's it.
Okay, so we are at the end. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to refer you to your text. There is, let me just see if I can open the text. Just give me 1 sec here. And let me just exit the full screen. Just give me a sec here. We're finishing now. I don't understand why this thing doesn't show me my textbook. Show me the textbook. Okay, so you're seeing my textbook here, right? This is your textbook. Can you see the textbook?
Yes, Doc. Yes, Doc.
So this is your textbook. One of your textbooks. You have 2 textbooks, and if you go to chapter 7, I think it's chapter 7. And you can also use the POPAM. POPAM has a lot in there on the different types of test items. A lot. So you can also go to POPAM. But this one is the other one, the qubits. And you can see where he sets out, they set out a lot of this one, this chapter 7 here is on writing the objective test items. So I'm referring you to it to assist you. And what is great is that they set out the objective for you because your test items must align with your objectives, the class objective, right? The objective that you set up when you're doing your lesson plans, and then you pull on the specific objectives that you decide you're going to align your test item to, that these become your samples, right? So you have to decide on which objectives from your teaching is going to guide the development of your test item. And they set out the objective for you. For instance, in this one, given a story, the student can recognize the meaning of all new words. And here is the test item to match. And it shows you not only an idea of what a test item could look like, in a case like this, but also it shows you that how the test item should be formatted. There's a certain format for doing good quality test items. So you use numbers on the side and you use letters for your choices, A, B, C, D, and some test makers use capitals, capital A, capital B, capital C, capital D. All right, so see another objective here. The student can associate the characteristics of leading characters with their names and the test item example below it. And I wanted to point out this particular example because I don't think it was covered in the last presentation. I don't remember if we did matching. Don't think we did matching. But the first column is a list of the names of this one is to, I don't like how this one is done actually. It's supposed to be the opposite way. When you're doing matching items, that is not really how it's supposed to be. In the space provided, write the letter of the description that matches each character. Oh, so for this one, this is really not a, this is more like a completion item, right? This is not really a matching item. So what they're asking you to do is to choose one of these and write the description on the left side. So that would be more of a completion item where they give you the choices on the right. But if I want to go down, and here's an example of true and false, how you could set it up. And of course, you have to make sure that you have your instruction very clear. Test item, here's the objective for it. The students will recognize whether certain events occurred. The test item, here's a list of incidents in Huckleberry Finn. Circle T if it happened in the story and F it if it did not. So it gives you the specific instruction very clearly. All right, so what I wanted to show you though is how to do a matching. And she even goes to the trouble to show you how to write higher order, samples of higher order items. I wanted to look for a matching to show you how the matching. Here's another suggestion for writing true and false items again. And here is the matching. But in this one, he asks you what is wrong with it. And I'm going to just tell you for the sake of time, a lot of things is wrong with this matching item here. This is not how a matching item is supposed to be set up. I don't know what, he must have laid it out somewhere at the top and I must have missed it. But when you're doing matching items, you're supposed to put the descriptions or the long statements on the left-hand side and the concepts on the right-hand side. So column A should have had president during the 20th century invented the telephone, all of that on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, it should have had the concepts or the labels or the main names you're doing, like if it's a definition. All right, so he asks you what is wrong with all of this particular, and all the answers are in the appendix at the end of the book. So you don't even have a worry with that. You can just go to the appendix to see all that he says. Another important thing about matching items is that you must always have one extra. So in the list B. So because this Lincoln, Nixon and all these presidents should have been on the right-hand side, they should have had 1 extra or 2 extra below that. So there are a number of problems wrong with this matching item. I don't know where the proper example is. I wanted to find the proper example, but in the interest of time. All right, so here is a better example of a matching item. Is this a matching item? Yes, it is. Here is a better example where you notice the statements are on the left and you notice that there is more than. So there's 3 here, but there is 6 on this side. That's the way it is supposed to be done. Of course, with proper instructions as well. So this one is more or less correct. But the last one I showed you was incorrect. Here is another one. Would this one be correct, look correct to you? Based on what I said before? Do you see the difference? Student? I needed to see it because if you don't see it, you know what I mean, it will cause problems in the future. Yeah. Right, you won't recognize it. So if you notice that the labels, the concepts, or whatever it is that you're doing, the definition for a concept, those shorter labels must be on the right-hand side in column B. And you notice that they also have letters, whereas those have numbers. Yeah, the statement, the explanation, the definition must be on the left-hand side with numbers. And there must always be 1 or 2 extra on the right. On the right. And then, of course, your instruction has to be very clear as to how they are doing, right? Yes, ma'am. One more thing about it is that whatever you're doing in a matching item set must be consistent. You can't have all different concepts. In other words, unrelated subjects then. Right. It must be a consistent list. All right. So I wanted to point that out to you because I don't think we had covered that one in the last presentation. So that's important. And as I said, it's all here in your book. I just opened the book to find it this morning and it was all there. And here's examples of like the mathematics type of questions. And as I said, he has all the answers in the appendix as well. And so does Popham, you know, and they go through and they show you everything. So I think that's it for today. Unfortunately, we didn't get to other. But next week I will be doing my presentation and I will make sure that the two groups get to go before me. All right. So please be prepared and try to come to class on time so that you can get a chance. So I'm going to close off here. And as I said, this is your cubics, but also Popham. Popham, both of them have everything in them that you need. Basically, with examples. That's what I like about them. They give you a lot of examples.
Please remember the register, please.
That's what I'm going to know, but I'm tired.
Doc, next week, could you go through group assignment number 2, please?
Group assignment number 2, I went through that already.
The decoding? The decoding, the curriculum.
I'll go through that today, no.
No, man, not today. Next class.
Oh, yes, I'll go through it, but not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go through that. Yeah, man, I'll go through that again. Let me find my little register now, no? Hold on, let me put my register now. Oh, I'm tired, my head hurting me. All right, I found it. Okay, let's go to the register. I'm having a hard time with this thing because I'm not seeing the thing come up on the screen. I have to be guessing. So you see my register?
Yes, let me see.
Yes, so we just respond. Jelaine wasn't here. Jelaine? Jason, I guess he's gone.
Yeah, he got about that.
Brittany,
Here, Doc.
Amelia,
Here, Doc.
Zoe, Sasha Gay, Zoe was here.
I'm
right?
here. I'm here.
Akeem, heard him.
Present, Doc.
Natisha,
Here, Doc.
Kes Joy,
Yes, I'm here.
Marianne,
Here, Miss.
Shanique,
Here, Miss.
Javon, Peter King,
Here, Miss.
Shanique Bennett,
Here, Miss.
Roseanne,
Here, Miss.
Equitable, no longer.
Not in this class.
I know I should take him out, don't it?
Yes.
It's all right. We can stay this time. Latoya, Tedisha, didn't I see Latoya? Did I see Latoya today?
Latoya and Virgil could not log in.
Okay, Tedisha,
Here, Doc.
Tanik,
Here.
Hey, hold on, let me in a class. 1 second.
Chrisan,
1 second. Yeah, I'm in a class. 1 second.
Chrisan,
I'm here, Doc.
Joshua.
Here, Miss.
Oh my, Joshua, I'm going to ask you a question next week. Julian.
Here, Doc. Julian is here.
Okay. Melissa. Georgia.
Here, Miss.
Janelle.
Here. I'm here.
Romar.
Here.
Iselin.
I'm here, Doctor.
Oh my, you're quiet today, man. Kellyanne.
Present, Miss.
Tiffany.
Present, Doc.
Sashane. Did I say Sashane today? I don't remember. Shane Lawson.
Present, Miss.
You say Sashane McLean is here.
Okay, all right. Fergie couldn't get in, you said?
Neither Latoya or Virgil could log in.
All right, never mind. Kimberly.
Present, Doctor.
You heard that?
And Kadeen. Kadeen, are you here?
I'm here.
Okay, all right. Save.
Hello?
Yes. Yes, I have you down. Okay, so that's it, guys, and have a great weekend.
Dr. Anderson?
Oh, please.
Dr. Anderson, are you
Yeah.
here? Sashane is here. I saw you put an A absent. Yes, Sashane McLean is here.
All right, let me check.
Yes, Mr. Change it to
No, I put it to P. It's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, so wait a minute now. What did I tell you? I want to switch over to OUR VLE platform, right? You are currently working on your discussion. Now, how are we going to switch over? At which point should we switch over? With the items, you agree? The item with the first assignment.
Yes, Doc.
I think let's leave the discussions as is, and when we get to the first assignment now, which is due next week, right? Next week. So you're going to look out for me to set up the platform. I actually set up a discussion already, it was there from the beginning. I was just testing it, but I didn't want to put too much things in case I got the container. So I'm going to go ahead and set up the platform for the item analysis. All right. So that's where we will start with using the OUR VLE. Is everybody clear on that? And there's the portals on it as well for submitting the other assignments. Now remember to try and go ahead and identify a teacher who you can either interview or a class that you can actually do your submission of test paper with. That it would have to be either that you are a teacher in the classroom and you're going to create a test. This is for your final assignments, but you need to know ahead so you can start to seek out somebody if you need to. That's why I'm reminding you. So it's either that you are going to do the thing yourself because you're already teaching, or if you're a non-teacher, what the students normally do is identify some friend or friend of a friend that can link them up with a classroom that they can create a test for. And they ask the teacher to administer the test to the students, and then they evaluate, they carry out a complete item analysis after they get back the results of those test papers. So you're going to need a bunch of test papers that you administered. If that is not the situation, then you have to resort to the alternative, which is where you interview a teacher, I think. So what did that assignment ask for? I don't want to overwhelm you at this point, but what I wanted to do was to just get you on track. We will provide the test data, sorry. Dr. Williams said that she would provide the test data if you don't have a class that you can administer the test papers to. Then we will provide the test data. All right? And we will use that to do the, you will use it to do your item analysis. So you'll be learning about how to do item analysis. For the alternative, that's the one where the alternative assessment is the one where you can either interview the practicing teacher, right? Or analyze the assessment and provide formative feedback to the teacher or lecturer, right? And provide formative feedback to yourself. So it's a two-part thing. So my thing is that when you get a chance, just reread through these again to see if you are able to administer the tests, or you will have to use the alternatives. Well, the alternative for the first one is not, for the traditional is not hard, because we would supply the test papers. So that one is not too bad. But the other one, you might have to find a practicing teacher to interview. That's the one that you really need to, but if you're already in the classroom and you can administer your own tests and then analyze it, you're gone clear. All right. If not, then we will supply the test papers for you. I just wanted you to know what are the options to remind you. Julian, you have a question? And Chrisanne?
Yes, Doc. I just wanted to find out, is there like a specific grade or any grade can work for the test for those who teach?
No, any grade can work for the test.
Okay.
But it's a traditional test, you know, so you're going to have all the items that we have pointed out for the traditional test. You're going to have as much as possible in there, right?
Okay, understood.
And but it's really about the analysis of the test items is focused lie. You don't need to have all the items, sorry. You can have just multiple choice. It can be just a straight. because the analysis is based on the multiple choice responses.
Okay, understood.
So in order to analyze that test, it must be a full multiple choice. So full multiple choice tests you can administer in your own classroom, make up your tests and you administer it, and then you bring back all of the papers, all of the test papers, but you have to bring the evidence of the test papers.
Okay, understood that. Thank you.
All right. Any other question, Chrisanne?
Doc, I was asking if you would provide a guest link for the Orville because I'm still not able to access.
Oh no, you serious?
Doc, I'm over it.
Oh, but that's going to really, oh God, that's going to put you at bay when we get to that.
Right.
I told maybe you should tell Dr. Robert Lila. Dr. Robert Lila is the best person, eh?
Doc, I've told everybody. I've spoken to Dr. Bramwell, I've spoken to Miss Keys, I've spoken to everybody that I could.